Hi, and welcome back to The Previews. My name is Ray Sam Donkalholm, and if you've never watched the show before, here's essentially what it is. This is an interview talk show where I interview film, video makers, or anybody in the industry, and have them come on so we could talk to them and have a kind of preview, if you will, of all of their upcoming projects, past projects, so you can get to check all their amazing projects out. And today in the studio we have Kelly Neal. Kelly, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
What really got your start in the industry?
Well, I'm a musician, and I've been playing since I was this high. So that got my start. And then later on, I never imagined that I would be a producer, or in the film industry. As much as I loved it, I was a fan of it. I was a fan of the creative process. I never imagined I would do it. And then I got into editing. Around 2006, I finally had a computer system and software that I could actually do that. And I did some little fan music videos, like you see, and it just snowballed. And then a friend of mine and I were doing them together. And we kind of had already this director-editor relationship in doing the videos. I was the technical one and I was putting the pieces together.
Right.
And she was trying to tell a story, so then we thought we should really do this. And that led to our short films that we did, which were a blast. We had a great time doing those. Two that I'm really proud of is our very first one, which I'm proud of just because we did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's called Shadowbox and it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I love Shadowbox actually. The previews that you gave me, I like Shadowbox like the best.
And then Broken was the first one that I did the complete edit on. Shadowbox I did a re-edit, but it was just certain scenes, whereas beginning to end I edited Broken. So pretty proud of that one.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then the feature film, we filmed all over from April to September of 2010. We were weekend warriors, very small budget, and that almost killed us. So that's it. That's literally was how it went.
Right. And for those of us who just don't know much about the industry, what exactly is a producer's role in an independent or a feature film?
I asked the same question, and I found out that you are everything. From the very beginning of pre-production to the end of post, no matter, you're doing everything else in between. You wear a ton of hats, because ultimately the producer is responsible for everything. The production, the money, craft services, all that stuff. You have to make sure is there. I went and we were running low on water, so I'm the one that went to the store. They're still filming, so I can't ask anybody else to go, if you don't have enough PAs or they're busy.
Right.
I went off and got water. You know what I mean? It's like, and when we did the feature film, we had 4 producers. And one of them, he had never produced before. He had acted, but he'd never produced before. And he said to me, I just realized, we were in the middle, it was the summer, right in the middle of the shoot. And he goes, I just realized I'm a glorified gopher. And then at the end, with post-production, it's making sure that all gets wrapped up right, and the final result and marketing, or whatever you're going to do. So yeah, producer is a simple word for a very large job.
Right. And besides being a producer, you also have a large variety of skills that you've been telling me before the show. You're a musician, editor, producer. You did music director before in your 20s as well. That's really interesting. And there's probably a bunch of stuff right now that I'm just don't know because I collected some of this information from the internet. How do you make the time to do all of those things, or find the balance between all of those things?
It's actually, because the reason is it's rare that I'm doing every single thing at the same time. So the musical director, I didn't actually go to college till my late 20s. So the years that I should have been in college out of high school, I got in with a couple of film students, friends and stuff like that, and then I did a couple of those music for those, and then I got into some stage productions. So that all was in that period of time. Right now, the producing and the editing go hand in hand, because all my stuff, I am the producer, but I'm also the editor. And then I also, I edit for some other people too, get some editing jobs and things that, other people at the same studio that I work from, that need stuff. So those two things do go hand in hand.
Right.
But that's easy. It's because it's the same job. You know what I mean? You're doing, when I do my show that's on now, Out of the Garage into the Spotlight, yeah, I'm producing, I'm putting it all together, I'm doing the filming like you're doing here, and then I'm also in the editing booth and editing it and putting it all together.
Right. And just to expand upon Out of the Garage and Into the Spotlight, it's a really interesting show that you have, and I feel like it both drew on like your passions and your skills as an editor and a producer and as a musician as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about how that show got started?
Absolutely. When I was out in, I lived out in Denver for about 5 years, and in order to learn editing of film, when we decided that we were going to do these short films, I actually went to the local cable television studio in Denver. They had classes for editing. And so I took their class. I used their, when I edited Broken, I used their facility to edit it. And so when I moved back here, I called around. I thought that would be interesting to get back into, see what I could do on my own, And so Derry Community Television, I went there, and I was told basically, what do you want to do? Essentially.
Right.
And I'm a musician. I was a professional musician for almost 20 years. So that is my passion as far as musicians go. And local musicians, struggling musicians, So when in thinking of the format and concept of the show, it was the Out of the Garage into the Spotlight is, you go from studying or being a garage band, whatever the case may be, to actually getting gigs, actually getting paid. And if you're really lucky, you don't need a day job, and I wanted that struggle, you haven't hit the next plateau, you're still playing locally, you know what I mean? What's that like? That's really what I wanted to see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And for getting like all these musicians, like how exactly is your outreach? Like what do you do to gather these musicians?
Well, luckily, in southern New Hampshire, there's lots of open mics, especially over the winter. And so you meet people there. The first two shows that are up now, I actually know them, and I've known them for years.
Right.
So that was easy just to get me started. But then the ones that are coming up, I didn't know them before the show. In fact, the music teacher that you'll see in the preview, I met him at a music store, because I was at the music store looking for contacts for my show, and he walked in to get his flute fixed. And that's how that happened.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah, so you can't be afraid to talk to people.
Right.
That's really what it boils down to.
Exactly. And one more thing also to expand upon that is that it's a really interesting format, kind of like that documentary style, as you've noticed before. And I'm just wondering, how would a battle of the bands potentially play into your show?
I think that'd be awesome. It would be a matter of when a battle of the bands comes up locally, being able to go to them and say, this is what I do, this is what I like to do. And yeah, I would love to follow a band from beginning to end, them practicing and getting ready, and interview them of all their struggles and what they've been through, all the way to it's showtime.
Right.
That would be fantastic.
Awesome. And another thing I'm really curious about is your blogs also, and because you put most of your televisions and your television shows on blogs, and your other blog, Thoughts from a TV Geek.
Yep.
I'm wondering a little bit more about that, Thoughts from TV Geek. How did that get started?
Me being a geek,
Right.
needing to talk about shows, sometimes oh my God, this is so awesome, or oh, why did they do that? That kind of thing.
Interesting.
So that's how my Thoughts from a TV Geek blog got started, and then that's kind of morphed because of all my work at the television studio. I know all the people there, and Sean Zajac, he's another producer, and he actually works at the studio, and him and I would sit and geek out, just talking,
Right.
And I said to him one day, I said, why don't we make a show? Don't that'd be kind of cool? He was like, oh, I love it. Just us sitting there talking and geeking out.
Yes.
And it kind of went from there. And then he went and saw my blog. And we were trying to think of a name of the show and this and that. And he's like, Kelly, thoughts from a TV geek. It works. It's
Right.
perfect. I'm like, all right, awesome.
Yeah.
So it'll kind of coincide with the blog. And yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to be very different than Out of the Garage because it's going to be the two of us, sitting and actually talking. And the format will be more of, we'll probably have the latest TV shows that have been on, that week or 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
And then movies, and then, maybe a little on comics, literally the stuff that we're interested in.
Right.
You know.
So, thoughts from a TV geek, because you are one, and because
Yes.
I'm one, like I think like it'd be an interesting conversation. Like, what are maybe 5 television shows a geek should be watching right now on television?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the top 3 that I don't understand if anybody doesn't watch them would be The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and Doctor Who. That would be my top 3 right now.
The Holy Trinity, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, my brother doesn't watch any of them, and I yell at him all the time.
I gotcha. You see, it's interesting because like I love Game of Thrones. I've been following it since like season 1. I've only completed one of the books, and I'm working my way up.
I haven't read the books.
It's
Even The Walking
interesting.
Dead, I didn't come from the comic books.
Right.
And I read comic books, it just was not one that I was into because I was never into zombies at all. And that's the interesting thing that I tell people about The Walking Dead, the people that don't watch, why, I don't know. But is that it's not really about zombies. You know what I mean? It's about human nature. It's about us and how we survive,
Right.
So there's a lot more depth to it. I didn't start watching it till it was probably in its 3rd season. And because I had friends telling me, watch this.
Right.
When I watched it, I binged watched it. All the way up to the current show. And then I was like, no, now I have to wait every week.
Right. And like that just wrapped up. I have like a lot of friends who are into The Walking Dead. And interesting, like potential spoiler warnings for Game of Thrones, because I really want to like talk to you about this. This season has just been phenomenal.
It has.
I personally feel.
It has. Oh my goodness. Both those shows, I think these past seasons have been fantastic. There's so much going on in Game of Thrones, and I have to admit, I get lost sometimes. Like, wait, what? It's like
Right.
there's so much going on in that show. It's insane. And that truly is a show where, like, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like The Walking Dead, you're pretty secure and Rick's going to survive. But in Game of Thrones, it's anybody's show.
Right.
You never know. Yeah, my favorite, I think my favorite character, besides, I love Jon Snow, of course, everybody loves Jon Snow.
Right.
But I love Tyrion.
Right.
I think he's amazing, and he's been my favorite since the very first episode. I just loved him, especially that first season. He was just, just so intelligent and knows people, and I think he's in the perfect place right now. I think this is his calling.
Right. See, one of my favorite characters is Arya Stark, and
Oh, yeah.
I feel just so bad about her situation right now. And I play Skyrim, and I don't know if you ever like get into like
Yeah,
the
oh
video
yeah, I
game.
love Skyrim.
Yeah, Skyrim's awesome. And I was really hoping for some like Dark Brotherhood kind of stuff.
Right.
But like no, it's just been like an awful situation. She was blinded, and now she's being like stabbed in the middle of the street. And
now
I fear for her.
The Hound's back. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, now what are those two going to collide? Because it's going to happen.
Them thrones,
Yeah.
And also, I'm consider myself pretty much like a sci-fi geek also. But one thing I haven't gotten into is Doctor Who, and that's interesting that you bring Doctor Who up. Now, I want like a fan to really sell me on Doctor Who. So, do you think that you could do so?
Doctor Who is amazing. I wasn't sold on it when it came back. I'm old enough to have watched it in the 70s when Tom Baker was always on PBS. You know, that seemed to be the shows that they aired on PBS was all him. So I didn't even know there was another doctor at that point in time, growing up. And then I never watched it, never really thought about it again. It wasn't like I was geeked out over it.
Right.
I was more into Star Trek.
Yes.
So, but when it came back, again, you know, friends talked me into stuff. Friends talked me into Star Trek: The Next Generation. I became a huge, you know, Next Generation fan. And then friends talked me into Doctor Who. Said, no, give it a try, give it a try. And it was on, and I tried it, and it was in the first season of The Comeback, 2005.
Right.
And I found it interesting. It was like, oh, this is kind of cool. All right, you know, I could watch this.
Okay.
And it just got better, in my opinion. The more I watched it, the more I liked it. And some people don't like that the Doctor keeps changing. Since 2005, we're on the fourth, you know, incarnation of the Doctor.
Right.
But I think that makes it fresh every time. You know what I mean? David Tennant was the Doctor for 4 years. He was the second one. He's actually the 10th Doctor. And his stuff is amazing. And then I really loved when Matt Smith took over. In fact, I want to get my nephews into it because they got into Star Trek. So now, okay, Doctor Who.
Right.
So I plan on showing them the first episode of Matt Smith's incarnation of the Doctor because it's perfect for kids and it's amazing. I'm probably not selling it right, but my thing is watch it. If you're a sci-fi fan, give it a chance. You'll love it.
You see, that's the thing. Like, I get the enthusiasm of it. Like, I see it with like stuff like Star Trek and Star Wars, and I see like a huge community for Doctor Who. It's not like this weird, like, obscure show, and it's because it's so expansive. I'm like, look, where do I start? You know?
The 2005.
2005, right?
Yep. That's where I would start. You know, I would even say start with David Tennant, but because that's actually where I really got into it.
Right.
But if you really want to see the progression of the story, I would start at 2005. The old ones are great. They're, you know, cheesy effects. They used what they had back then. Right. You know, but yeah, no, the new ones are really, really good.
Interesting.
Yeah. The last episode that they had was the Christmas special. They always have a Christmas special every year. And my favorite character, River Song, she's a reoccurring character.
Okay.
And has an interesting relationship with the Doctor. Played by, I'm going to get her name wrong, Alex Kingston. She was on ER for a long time.
Right.
And that has become one of my top favorite episodes is that Christmas special. It was funny, it was dramatic. The two of them, Peter Capaldi is now playing the Doctor. They have amazing chemistry. But yeah, give it a shot.
Give it a shot? All right.
Give it a shot.
I'll definitely see if I could try to give it a shot. I remember like watching like one episode on demand and being like now they're time travel. I feel like I need to like
it is
start,
time travel.
You know?
Oh, it's all over. I mean, he's a Time Lord.
Right.
You know, and that box is what he travels in, and it's bigger on the inside, which you'll see. But
interesting stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So if enough like geek talk, but there's never enough geek talk.
Never enough geek talk.
Never. I want to take it over to a preview of Out of the Garage and Into the Spotlight.
Oh, great.
So we'll be right back after this preview.
Welcome to my job.
Kissing goodbye and we couldn't stop. Why can't you be blue over me?
I have been singing pretty much all my life.
Time for kites to all fly away. Summer love, it begins to fade. Yeah, gonna tell us all it's slavery day. Sweet Caroline, bop, bop, bop. The time never seems so good. So good, so good.
my stuff I do is I do mostly teaching, and that's, although I do have a wind symphony playing.
Whipped by the wind, she slow us down. Above another cigarette, gotta make this one count. A real one for the moment, for now.
Hi, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that preview. Kelly, thanks so much for coming on the show. I've never had an opportunity to geek out with anybody.
Thank you.
This is great. This is honestly awesome.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you very, very much.
Awesome. And for people who are trying to get in contact with you, whether it be on like doing the TV show or having like their opinions on like whatever matters about like Doctor Who or Star Trek or whatever, how would someone get in contact with you?
Well, on Twitter, I'm at Kelly E. Neal, and it's Neal. So you can find me there anytime. And then my website is thoughtsfromatvgeek.com. And you can post on there comments on any of my posts. And then Out of the Garage, if any musicians out there that happen to be watching this that say, hey, I want to get on that, it's outofthegarage.info. And you can contact me on there. And yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. And the same thing doubles for any filmmaker or anybody who's doing film, anybody in the industry. As long as you have something to show on the show, then you can contact us at thepreviewsch8@gmail.com. We're also at Facebook and Twitter at thepreviews, just plain like that. Should really get it trademarked or copyrighted or something, like make sure I do that soon. But thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, and stay tuned for the next episode of The Previews.